Well, settle down. Shh. We are very, very lucky to have the Chainsmokers here today, who were probably slightly unlucky to follow Tom Brady, who's particularly
He also
good.
got a better chair situation.
He did. Well,
what's the deal with that?
Yeah.
he's taller and better looking than all of us. So,
combined,
Tom got a good chair situation. I did complain, why didn't we have 3 of those chairs? And I was told that we
took them with him?
We didn't source them. I don't know what the problem is. But, first of all, so excited to have you guys here today. So excited. Were you going to say something?
No.
Oh, I was going to say, I don't want to step on your moment.
Anticipating what you were going to say.
So very, very excited to have you guys here today. Very excited to have you play tonight and have some fun. I'm sorry that... For those of you who don't know, they formally requested to be able to give tequila shots out at the event. I approved it.
Yeah.
And New York City said no, so I apologize. But
They really have authority over that?
I guess.
Okay.
I don't know.
All right.
We can probably claim our own domicile on the aircraft carrier.
Yeah, that's
10.
neutral waters, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So listen, first of all, you guys are amongst the most important musicians of your era, of your type. But to me, I mean, that's what they told me to ask.
Yeah. Who wrote that?
Your team.
Yeah, okay. Okay. Good. Yeah. Yeah. We got a new guy who's.
Yeah. Well,
crazy
he's
stuff
doing
like that.
great.
Yeah.
You guys
Yeah.
are the best. No. In all seriousness, you guys have brought a level of innovation to music that I haven't seen from other musicians. How does that process work for the two of you guys?
You want to take that one?
I don't know. That's sort of
Yeah.
a bold thing to take ownership over.
I feel like you would have to start by saying that, I mean, there are so many great artists out there
Yeah.
that,
I said among.
okay,
Among,
but
yeah.
I feel like we're very like imposter syndrome driven, where we're
Which is
constantly,
probably why you're great. 'Cause
Yeah.
You probably work hard. In fact, that was one of the things we talked about with Tom.
Yeah.
And one of the things we talked about with Serena, which was that chip on your shoulder where you feel like you're not good enough.
Totally. I mean, I think for us, innovation kind of starts with like, where do we belong? With music, obviously we grew up as avid fans of, tons of different genres throughout our lives that definitely influenced and inspired us. And, as we began to make music together, I think that was a really important part of kind of like recognizing like, where do we exist out here in this space that we're such huge fans of, and what can we make that feels unique and original to us, but also, inspiring and authentic. And for us, ultimately, we grew up on bands like Blink-182 and Dashboard and Jay-Z and, all sorts of great artists. And we also became huge fans of electronic music, which was, pretty huge at the time with artists like Calvin Harris and Avicii and Skrillex and Zed. But a lot of it was also like European dominated. And we felt
Is that where it came from originally? Did it start in Europe?
There's a lot of arguments. Did it start in Detroit? Did it start in Europe?
Well, all music technically starts in
Totally.
Detroit, right?
But I think for us, at the time that we were trying to, get started, it was definitely predominantly European dominated. And, for us, we wanted, respect to them for making amazing songs, but they were writing songs in the second language. We felt like
That's a problem for us.
Yeah, and we just felt like there was an opportunity to lean into the songwriting of the aspect of making music and bring some more of that indie influence that we grew up on into it, and that kind of was like where we began to innovate, I think, as artists. I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
No, I mean, I think also our journey, I mean, without knowing intimately the journey of every other artist, I mean, we started out not really intending for things to get to where they are now. We just loved so many genres of music and, wanted to just be a part of a scene that we were enamored with, which was, dance music around 2010 to 2012. And, we started by remixing, bands like, MGMT, Passion Pit, Phoenix, stuff that were kind of not really represented in the dance music space. And then, from there we kind of cut our teeth in production, and then we started writing our own songs. And so we went through this like remix to writing our own songs to singing our own songs, and things kind of got out of control. And it's been a fun ride, but we never really set out with the intention of like, we're going to be a band, this is what it's going to look like, and all this stuff. And so it's been a very interesting ride.
Well, when you think, here, got this for you. When you think about...
What's in here?
Well, vodka.
Okay.
It is a weird-looking water bottle.
Expensive.
Yeah.
Nice weight to it.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure it's like got no waste whatsoever. That's a big,
Come from
big
water.
thing nowadays.
Yeah.
So you guys have really reached the pinnacle of where you are. And one of the things I love about what you do is, and it seems to be becoming a bit of a thing now, but to me, you were amongst the first to drop music in an unexpected way, right? So like, I remember when we first became friendly, I'd see you drop a song. It would be like the biggest thing on the planet. There'd be no lead up to it. It would just like hit. Mm-hmm. Now, Taylor Swift has started doing that and others, but when you think about that sort of release process and the way you do that, what was the thought behind that?
Yeah, I think, the way to release music has changed so much, especially over the time that we've been releasing music. We started putting out songs song by song, and that was very typical in the dance world where most other genres revolved around albums, which is more traditional. And, through 2012 to now, which is kind of the time when we were active, so many things have changed. But, I guess at the time when we started making albums or releasing original Chainsmokers songs, this kind of IV drip of single by single thing was actually not typical, especially outside of dance.
Right, I didn't remember it. I mean,
yeah, and for us, it was like, we started, remixing artists off of Hype Machine, and our whole strategy was, we can growth hack this thing if we are remixing the right song, and we have a consistent flow, and we were also getting better as writers and producers at that time. So when it came to releasing, Chainsmokers records and making those, we were like, okay, well, why would we slow down? What's been working? So we created this thing called the rolling album, which we signed Spotify and Apple Music to an NDA at the time, which seems so ridiculous because it's so commonplace now. But in 2015, releasing an album single by single, and then we still wanted to chronicleize pieces of our moments in our career with albums. But our release strategy really benefited for song by song. So this was like our revolutionary, what they call the waterfall album.
Well, but that's how a lot of innovation starts. Innovators do something, and then others see it,
do it this way,
and say that
so
makes sense, and then they do it.
Totally.
Yeah. I mean, I think to that point too, I think it's like kind of recognizing. I mean, we spent a lot of time thinking about the impact that streaming was going to have on our fans and the broader music community generally in terms of how people consume music, and obviously we've seen the rise of playlist culture, generally speaking. And, and for us, I mean, Drew mentioned, that singles were kind of the status quo in dance, but not so much in pop. And I think for us, like understanding who our fans were, where they were, and I remember like growing up as a kid, you would like, I loved Outkast, and you would wait, 2 years between projects. And in that time, you would discover all sorts of other artists. And maybe if you matured, too fast, or they didn't deliver, they always delivered, but like some artists didn't, a great project, you were kind of like, all right, I'm over this now. And I think for us, we understood that like keeping people's eyes, on us was an important part of growth at the time. And, obviously this is a lot, the music process is super creative, but also just the idea that like now with Spotify, you have all sorts of data where you can make, real-time decisions about whether you should speed up a release or let one kind of, simmer for a bit longer. And
do you use that data to create new content? Do you learn and then say, ooh, people really like this component of that, we should do that more, or?
We're aware of it. Like, it's impossible not to be aware of it now. I don't know if we've leaned into it in that way. We're certainly like cognizant of it, but I think at the end of the day, that's not how we want to be, creatively making decisions.
Yeah, data-driven art's a scary concept.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. Well, speaking of data-driven arts, speaking of data-driven arts, artificial intelligence. Mm-hmm. Are you guys using it? Are you against it? I mean, where do we come down on that today?
We're fully for any type of innovation in kind of any space. That's a really broad thing to say, but I think we are only able to be successful because of the proliferation of the DAW, digital audio workstation, Ableton Live, Logic, the software that we use to make the music we make. And when we started making music, there was this whole, I mean, and still to this day, people are criticizing DJs, saying it's not, you know, they're not really like playing music and making stuff in Ableton with synths and MIDI data instead of like, you know, being classically trained is, you know, that's considered not real music. We've always believed that music is about connectivity. It's about being able to tell your story. All of the software and the software that's to come, especially the tools that, you know, will be the AI tools that we use today and what's coming, are just new devices for people to tell their stories. But I think human connection is center to what we love about music. And I think that's something that AI won't ever really be able to take away. They will make the tools more accessible for more people to be able to express themselves in more elaborate ways than just saying how they feel or whatever their means are right now of communication. So I'm really excited for that. You know, we were kind of the first software, like wave of using software to express ourselves, and it's just going to get crazier. So stoked for more people to have that opportunity.
And when you think about AI technology, software, you know, you guys are very technology driven. That then sort of has morphed into Mantis, right? So you've got this incredible fund that is investing in other businesses and technology. Let's start about the origin story. So what was the original germination of, yes, we're incredibly successful musicians, now we're gonna wanna go be venture capitalists, other than you probably wanted to bang your head against the wall a few times and this gave you the opportunity to do that.
So yeah, so Mantis, just for those who don't know, is a early stage fund that we have raised. We're in our third fund. We invest in seed and Series A companies, generally in pretty technical areas, kind of anything you would have.
A lot of AI.
A lot of AI, a lot of cybersecurity, a lot of infra, a lot of deep tech. But you know, before all of that, we were just, you know, some artists with a platform, and I think every kind of entertainer, athlete, you know, that has some success kind of gets to this moment where you start getting hit up about inbound opportunities to invest in different things, and those things traditionally are like CPG things. We've seen, you know, more fucking water companies than anyone should ever have to look at, and like they're just
well, every
water.
celebrity
like,
has a water company
than,
now,
you know,
right?
Another
you need water.
You gotta have water.
But it was a really interesting, you know, experience for us because, you know, for us, you know, we love being creative, we love the music business, but like there's always a part of us, ever since the day we met each other, that had, you know, this ambition to create a bigger empire or platform around the Chainsmokers. And, you know, as we met these entrepreneurs, whether they were starting water companies or soda beverage companies or whatever platforms, it was inspiring to meet entrepreneurs that had these super ambitious goals and in areas kind of outside music. And as we kind of began to invest, I think we just sort of got, you know, enthralled by the fact that, you know, these were people that were putting it all on the line. And then, you know, as you began to read the updates and get involved, you were like, wait, I can help these founders too in their journey. And that was like a really rewarding experience. I think our business manager positioned it as just passive revenue, and that, you know, you can, you know, we did a good job diversifying our portfolio, and this was like, you know, maybe you'll hit it big, maybe you won't. But, you know, very quickly, I think we realized that we're kind of the victims of adverse selection. You know, we were sitting on our hands waiting for great opportunities to find us, and through, you know, honestly, events like this and things we'd done in the past, playing shows for Fortune 500 companies and different startups, we made, you know, friends with a pretty amazing group of people that, you know, are now running humongous companies. And they were like, guys, like, you know, why are you not investors in my company? It's way better than the stuff you're looking at.
Right.
And we realized that, you know, there was an opportunity here to be more, you know, aggressive about what the things we wanted to invest in and potentially institutionalize, you know, those efforts to get into companies that are actually exciting and interesting to us. And I remember, you know, investing in, I think it was like the series like G of Uber, thinking I was about to make, you know, $1 billion. I think I'm like up like $400.
Well, you got a free. By the way, you got a few free rides out of it.
Yeah,
Dara, I was with Dara for dinner the other night.
Yeah. I think it crosses 100. I'm in the in the black, but I think it's. But either way, that it wasn't so much about that. It was experience about being a part of a company that like has transformed like my life and how I get to experience it. And I wanted to do more of that and support founders that had that sort of vision. And so the idea of Mantis was kind of how do we roll up all these different relationships of people that we've met in our life, and weaponize them in a way where we can drive value into early stage companies, and then in parallel kind of understanding that maybe because we come from a different space and have different perspectives and different levels of connectivity, that like we could drive unique value relative to kind of the typical Silicon Valley investors that have dominated the space. And the last piece I'll just say is that our strategy is a big part of our success, which is that we're not trying to be competitive. We want to be the most collaborative fund out there. Similar in music, collaborations played a huge part in our success. So we felt like venture should be no different. We didn't want to come in here guns blazing, pretending like we're know-it-all. I always say this, but the idea of Mantis is like to be the sixth man of the year on every championship team.
But that keeps with our sports reference today.
Exactly.
So we like the sixth man.
And it's a blast. And I think for us to spend the mornings working on something like this and then switch gears into music, it's a pretty fulfilling life. And so we're enjoying it.
Well, and you have your dogs, and everything is great.
Yeah.
Drew, did you want to add to that?
No, I mean, Alex is great. I mean, being an early stage venture capital investor is just so stimulating if you are excited by innovation and you want to experience what's coming next before everyone else does. And it's an extremely difficult business, as is the music business. You have to be the best to really end up making money and being successful there. But having a front row seat to all of that is extremely stimulating. And I, as a creative, find it very peaceful to put my brain in a different space for half the day, or whenever it's dedicated to that, and just it helps you zoom out of being really deep on a
probably makes
project.
You better at music too, right? Because you're not like all music all the time. Does it give your brain a chance to recalibrate?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think having something that you're equally passionate about that, is a different, being able to shift to a different mindset as an artist is really beneficial, and it doesn't have to be something in technology or finance like our we've decided to pursue, but just being wrapped up in, I mean, you could lose your mind. I think there are some projects, albums that we've worked on that we actually worked on them for too long, and I think you would ask any artist, or actually it's better probably to ask a songwriter, what phase do you want to go work with this artist in, and they'll always say the end. Because sometimes the best, you kind of like get on a vibe towards the end. You'll write a whole album just to get that one song that kind of writes the album that actually comes out. And we're trying to just like maximize that chapter, and sometimes like splitting our time and restricting our time so we can't like get lost in the sauce of our own creativity has been a really great means to productivity, to be honest.
There's something analytical too. Music, it's like, is the song ever really done? Like, is this the best melody? Is this the best lyrics? And I think, obviously at early stage investing, you're dealing with ideas too, so it is not necessarily super concrete.
Well, it's early stage, so they're going to have to pivot a bunch of times.
Like, victories, like, did we win the deal? Is this company doing well? Are they generating AR? Are they getting to the next round? And that can be like a nice feeling relative to music when you're just like, is it done? Do we like this artwork? It's very subjective.
It'll also break your heart in a similar way, where you'll have a company that has like the greatest idea, they're well funded by the best people, there's some kind of innovative change that kind of disrupts their business model, or the CEO sucks. And was a great founder, but
let's hope the Zeta shareholders don't feel that way.
Totally. I wasn't hinting at anyone.
I was gonna say, Drew, come on.
But it's like having a song that you're like, I know this is a hit. Like, I've made them before. This one feels good, and it comes out, and everyone's, or you post it on TikTok, it's going crazy, and it comes out, and people are like, cool, thanks. It's a lot of parallels.
So when you think of the parallels, let's get back into AI. And we've had some talk about this today. AI is obviously changing the way content is created in a lot of different spaces. How do you see AI changing the music industry today, tomorrow, and next week? Here, I'll put it on the table.
You want it?
I was going to just put it here for you. It doesn't matter.
I think before we reach AGI, which is kind of impossible to interpret how that will affect things, like right now, there are a lot of really useful AI tools that are productivity based, similarly to the AI tools that are affecting every other industry. you know, I would say because it's not like these tools are reducing. I mean, they are. Yeah, they're reducing. You know, some laborious tasks, or you can use them for inspiration, or you know, even if I'm writing lyrics in ChatGPT, like I can exhaust every potential like way to rhyme a sentence if I'm stuck on a word. Something that would like I would just like have to like use my brain.
You're crazy,
That
man.
would suck, you know.
Let me ask you a question. Do you write the lyrics and you write the music, or do you both write the lyrics?
We both work on everything, yeah. And you know, but like you can kind of exhaust the possibilities of things like way quicker, or you could be I will go into the studio and I'm hitting all my synths and they all sound the same as they did the day before, and nothing's inspiring a song. And then you could type something into Suno or Udio and it's like you get an idea, or some demo that I wrote, I put in and they give me a indie female singer-songwriter whose cat just died's version, you know? You can put anything in there, it's crazy, and it will, you know, interpret it however. And then you're like, oh, maybe that's the direction I should take this.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like we did this the other day. I mean, we wrote a song we think is a hit, and we'll see. And, you know, we were just like, I wonder if this would sound better with a female on it. And we just put it, you know, into AI, and it did sound good, but we ultimately decided, you know, that wasn't the right direction. And that would have taken us potentially 2 weeks to find
Right, because you'd find a woman and then have to record it. You'd have to listen to it.
And we just
then you defend her when you'd say,
Totally. Yeah.
So there's also a lot of artists now, like bigger pop artists, have their own models that are trained on their voice. These models aren't that difficult to build. It's more, do you have access to the data, which is kind of the big question.
Well, you also have to make sure there's no data exhaust. That's one of the things we deal with all day, right? Because we're helping very large enterprises to manage their data, and they don't want their data enriching the large language models.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, so a lot of artists are making a proprietary model for just them using, and they, you know, obviously train it on their voice, which can be very helpful if you were a songwriter, you know, and you're trying to pitch a song to that artist. You know, they take your song and they run it, and they basically hear what it's like with them singing it. So kind of leaves less to the imagination, and it's easier to get a song placed.
That's sort of like calling your bank and telling them you want money sent somewhere. I'm joking. The fake AI trying to steal.
Yeah.
They're training on people's voices.
I think a big part of this too is just like where you know, from a copyright standpoint, where's this going to end up? You know,
well, and that was my next question, Alex. You've got a lot of information in what the large language models would deem the public domain. Mm-hmm. A lot of people would deem that copyrighted. They're using that to create new content, whether it's video. A lot of short-form video is where it's really started. We haven't really seen it in sort of popular music yet, but short-form video, it's happening a lot. And they're using, there was a thing just the other day, Michael Kasson was talking about this earlier today, that somebody recreated Robin Williams in a short-form video, and his daughter, of course, was very, very upset about that, right? Where does this go?
I mean, that's interesting. I mean, obviously, OpenAI went bold and beautiful with Sora 2, and it's kind of like, hey, we're just going to use everyone unless you tell us you don't want to be in it, which is an interesting direction. But I think the truth is like, everyone's trained on everything already. It's already been done.
I was going to say it's finished.
It's over. You know, obviously, I think that's why companies, the enterprise you were talking about, you know, put so much value on the privacy of their proprietary data, because those are the areas where I think you should and could invest in AI and potentially have an edge as a company. But I think, you know, legally speaking, I think the ruling right now is that an AI output is not copyrightable, which is an interesting decision in my opinion, because I think similar to what Drew's point was about how, you know, at one point, people thought Ableton wasn't making music.
Right.
I think you could say the same thing about like the digital camera, you know, at one time, and how
there was
people
a
didn't
huge
consider
global,
or the electric guitar, you know, like it goes even,
With the camera in particular, you know, photographers who used film were saying digital cameras were crazy. In fact, the first digital camera ever created was created by Kodak.
Yeah.
And they decided to shelf it because it would hurt their film business. That didn't age very well. But when you think about it, innovation's going to come along. It's just a question of how do you deal with it.
100%. So, I mean, it's tough to say whether, like, AI output should be, protected under copyright law, but I do feel like that, at least in the current world of prompt engineering and context engineering, it is an art form in of itself. It's just new and scary and different, which is why I think, we're having, such big debates about it. But I do think, a big part of the future of AI and broadly, like, our role as America in the world and how important this will be for us in the future is, if it's over-regulated, we're going to be in a tough spot. But obviously, as an artist, it's tough to say that because, there are model companies out there training songs on Chainsmokers songs. And, you can get around, on Suno, you couldn't type Chainsmokers in, but you can go to ChatGPT, say, give me a prompt that sounds, will get me the sound like the Chainsmokers, but without using their name. And then you can go to Suno and, input that in.
Interesting.
And there's no doubt that Suno was trained on, our music.
Of course.
But, I just don't know. I think you got to look to platforms like YouTube with, content ID and things like that. And, hopefully there's a future where...
Would do a very good job of sharing revenue
100%.
back with the artist. Yeah.
So, no, hopefully, that, that's a part of the future. So I think that's the fair thing to do.
So you think it's a hybrid? You think... Certainly, you believe the input should be getting remunerated for copyright.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're putting Chainsmokers explicitly in...
Yeah.
Yes, I don't know how you...
I did that just Sunday.
Yeah. But it's, the genie's out of the bottle. Like, and I don't think it's...
The music's out there, right?
Yeah. And I think you're going to have a really hard time as these models get better and stronger. Open source models, like, really safeguarding this stuff. And, the best thing we could do is try to figure out how to embrace this as a society and make great art, make great, products, software, whatever.
Do you think it changes future releases? So, by way of example, when photographs first started getting put on the internet, yes, I am that old, people would just take them. Then they started watermarking them, so you couldn't just take them.
Yeah.
Is there a digital way to encrypt music or a way of putting, I don't know, maybe certain components in the music that if a large language model were to replicate it, it would become obvious, and then you would be able to enforce a copyright?
Yeah, I mean, a digital fingerprint makes sense in some way. I mean, I know obviously in Sora they watermark it, but like you could just use Sora to be like remove the watermark. There's irony.
You're spending a lot of time on this platform.
Yeah. I mean, I think like the bigger, broader question is just like, how do we protect, ourselves? Kind of like your comment about like someone calling your bank as a fake AI version.
Right.
I mean,
well, nobody else did. So
11 Labs model on your voice, pretty easily. Use Sora to create a twin of you. Yeah. And it wouldn't be that hard, I think, to like, in essence, steal your identity or fool someone that you know close to you. It's kind of a dystopian idea, but I do think similar to like health insurance, life insurance, you're going to have kind of deep fake insurance, and you're going to everyone, whether you have kids in school, whether
by the way, there's already insurance for it.
Yeah, but I think it's going to be as simple as like LifeLock sort of thing that like you'll have a 24/7. There's a company that we're a part of called Outtake AI that does this. It's 24/7 identity protection. It's a crazy future, but like think about at school when we were younger. Instagram wasn't really a thing. Like it was just kind of like word of mouth. Like, oh, Stevie, pissed himself in gym class, and then everyone was like, damn, Stevie.
That damn Stevie.
Yeah, Stevie.
We need to protect Stevie.
Yeah, but
you got Stevie's back.
But nowadays you could like be like, look, this is Stevie, doing that, and so I think.
Poor Stevie.
Yeah, but I think if you're going to school, you're gonna, the school's gonna require every kid to have something like this to protect them from, other kids doing stuff like that.
Well, and it's one of the things I've said. We talk a lot about Q Day, which we didn't get into a lot of quantum today because we're still focused on AI, and we introduced Athena, our whole new conversational AI platform today. But literally, I believe you're gonna have, quant computers that protect you and quant computers that are going to maybe be a little bit more nefarious.
Yeah.
And I think you're going to have a similar thing with AI. One of the challenges with AI is most of the companies that would need to embed the technology to stop deep fakes into their platform massively benefit from the traffic volumes that are created by that.
100%. I mean, think about like the invention of the car. You know, it's like we were probably better off investing in gas stations or something like that. So there's obviously like byproducts, you know, of this technology that's super important. And we do a lot of like I mean, it's super nerdy, but we do a lot of cybersecurity investing.
No, that's great.
And it's super interesting space to me. And you know, a lot of the great companies that we're a part of like spend as much time on the offensive side of the thing they're trying to create through their defensive piece of software. And you know, and that's a kind of strange thought where like their job is to hack to figure out how this, you know, I think Anthropic is one of those great companies that spends a lot of time on safety.
For sure.
And evals and things like that. But yeah, I mean, we're fucked for sure. Yeah.
In summary.
Yeah.
By the way, on that note, thank you for coming. That's great.
Yeah.
Great.
Great job. Thanks, Ron.
That was great.